On Mother's Day, my daughter handed me an invoice for $500,000, costs of caring for an ungrateful burden. She announced it in front of the entire family, 40 relatives. So I responded with a folder. But what shocked everyone the most was my granddaughter. She saved my broken soul. Thank you for being here. That hook was intense, and it only gets deeper from here. Drop a comment and tell me where you found this video. And if you're new, hit subscribe. Quick note, this story uses creative elements to explore real issues like elder abuse and family betrayal. Buckle up, this is going to be a journey. I never thought Mother's Day would be the day my daughter handed me a bill. It was May 11th, 2025, and we were at the Hocking Hills cabin in Ohio, a sprawling log home tucked between trees, where you could smell pine in the air. 40 members of our extended family had gathered for the annual Mother's Day celebration. The dining room was packed, the long table still scattered with plates from lunch. Laughter echoed from the living room where kids chased each other. I was 60 years old, a widow for 7 years. My late husband Joseph and I had raised 2 daughters, Rebecca, who lived in Denver, and Lauren, who I'd been living with for the past 3 years here in Ohio. Lunch had just ended. I was sitting at the far end of the table when Lauren stood up. She tapped her wine glass with a fork and the room quieted. "Everyone, can I have your attention?" Her voice was bright, confident. She was 35, blonde, well-dressed, the kind of woman who always commanded a room. Her husband Ryan stood behind her, arms crossed. "I have something important to share. Something about Mom." My stomach tightened. She smiled at me, but the smile didn't reach her eyes. She pulled a folded stack of papers from a folder and held it up. "This," she said, "is an invoice, a bill." The room went silent. A fork clinked somewhere. For the past 3 years, Mom has lived with Ryan and me. We've provided her with a home, food, medical care, transportation, everything. And today I'm presenting her with the cost. She unfolded the papers and began reading aloud. Room and board, $10,000 per month for 36 months. That's $360,000. Medical co-pays and transportation, $15,000. Groceries, utilities, incidentals, $125,000. Her voice didn't waver. Grand total, $500,000. Gasps rippled through the room. Someone whispered, "Oh my God." Another voice said, "She can't be serious." Lauren walked over and placed the papers in front of me. My hands shook as I stared at the itemized list. The numbers blurred. "So, Mom," Lauren said softly, almost sweetly, "when can we expect payment?" I couldn't speak. My throat felt tight. Tears burned in my eyes, but I refused to let them fall. Not here, not in front of everyone. The room stared at me. Some faces looked shocked, others confused. A few looked sympathetic toward Lauren. I heard my cousin Janet mutter, "Well, taking care of a parent is expensive." And that was when something inside me broke. Not broke the way Lauren wanted. Broke in, the way that makes you realize you've been silent too long. I slowly pushed my chair back and stood. My legs trembled, but I forced myself upright. I looked directly at Lauren. "You want to talk about money, Lauren?" I said, my voice stronger than I felt. The room went completely silent. Everyone was looking at me now. Not her, me. I took a breath and let the words come. To understand how I ended up here holding a $500,000 bill, I said, my voice cutting through the silence, "You need to know how this started." I looked around the room. 40 pairs of eyes stared back at me. It started 7 years ago. April 2018, Riverside Methodist Hospital in Columbus. The memory hit me like a wave, the smell of antiseptic, the beeping machines, the cold fluorescent lights. Joseph was dying. Pancreatic cancer. 6 months from diagnosis to the end. My voice cracked, but I kept going. I was sitting beside his hospital bed, holding his hand. Lauren was on the other side. I looked at her. "Do you remember what he said to you?" Her face had gone pale. "He looked at you and said, 'Take care of your mother.'" I paused, letting the weight of those words settle over the room. "And you cried. You squeezed his hand and you promised. You said, 'I will, Dad, I promise, always.'" Lauren's jaw tightened, but she didn't speak. "He died 3 hours later. The room was so quiet I could hear someone breathing near the window. The funeral was a blur. I went back to our home in German Village, 1847 Schiller Street. That beautiful old brick house Joseph and I had bought 30 years before. But without him, it felt empty. Every room echoed. Every corner held a memory that hurt to look at. Rebecca, sitting near the fireplace, wiped her eyes. She'd been there. She remembered. For the next 4 years, I lived in that house alone. I tried to adjust. Rebecca called me every week from Denver. She offered to have me move in with her and her family. I glanced at Rebecca. She nodded, tears streaming down her face. But I said no, I wasn't ready. I had my routines, my book club, my garden, my independence. I turned back to the room, and I had money. Joseph's life insurance paid out $130,000. I had $275,000 in my retirement account. The house was paid off. I wasn't wealthy, but I was comfortable. I was secure. I let that sink in. Then in early 2022, Lauren started calling more often. She'd say, "Mom, I worry about you. You're getting older. What if something happens? What if you fall Ryan and I have that extra room? You should move in with us." I looked at Lauren. Her arms were crossed, now defensive. I resisted at first, but she was persistent. And honestly, I was lonely. The house felt too big, too quiet. My voice softened. So in March 2022, I agreed. I paused. Lauren was thrilled. She said it was going to be great. She offered to help me sell the house. She knew a realtor. She'd handle everything. I didn't have to worry. I shook my head slowly. The house sold quickly, $485,000. Lauren said she'd help me invest the money, keep it safe. I looked her dead in the eye. I trusted you. The room held its breath. I moved into her house in Dublin in late March. Those first few months, they were nice. My voice turned cold, but then things started to change. It started small. I continued, my voice steady now. My bedroom, the nice guest room upstairs, suddenly Ryan needed it for his home office. Lauren suggested I move to the basement. She said it was bigger, more private. I let out a bitter laugh. It was cold, damp, but I didn't complain. I didn't want to be difficult. Every face in the cabin was fixed on me now. Then about a year after I moved in the 2023, I decided to check my retirement account online. Lauren had helped me set up access on an old laptop. She was always so helpful. Now, my tone dripped with sarcasm. I logged in. I expected to see $275,000, the money Joseph and I had saved for decades. I paused, letting the silence build. There was $18,000 left. Gasps echoed through the cabin. My cousin covered her mouth. An uncle shook his head in disbelief. I ran upstairs. I found Lauren in the kitchen. I asked her, what happened to my retirement account? I mimicked her dismissive tone. She barely glanced up from her phone. What do you mean? So I told her. And do you know what she said? I stared hard at Lauren. Mom, the market's been rough. You know that. Investments go up and down. Don't stress about it. I shook my head. But it wasn't the market, was it, Lauren? She didn't answer. After that, things got worse. I wasn't invited to eat with the family anymore. Lauren would bring a plate downstairs, small portions, barely enough. When I asked for more, she'd tell me, "You don't need that much. You're not as active as you used to be." My words came faster now. I started eating alone in that cold basement, staring at concrete walls. I pressed on. Then she isolated me. My best friend Pauline tried to visit one afternoon. I heard the doorbell. I heard Lauren tell her, "She's not feeling well today. Maybe another time." Pauline, sitting near the back, was crying now. Pauline never came back. I turned to address the whole group again. My phone disappeared. Lauren claimed I'd misplaced it. She gave me an old flip phone with only her number programmed in. Told me I didn't need a smartphone, that it would just confuse me. My hands trembled, but I kept going. Rebecca still called every week, but Lauren hovered over me during every call. If I said anything she didn't like, she'd give me that warning look. So I lied. I told my own daughter everything was fine because I was afraid of what Lauren would do if I didn't. Tears welled in my eyes. I felt trapped. No money, no home, no way out. My words came softer now. At night, I'd sit on my bed and talk to Joseph's photo on the nightstand. I'd whisper, "I'm stuck, sweetheart. I don't know how to get out." I met Lauren's gaze. I thought no one saw what was happening to me. I paused for effect, but Lauren made one mistake. Everyone waited. She underestimated my granddaughter. By 2025, I continued my tone sharpening. The mask had completely fallen off. 40 faces stared at me, family members who'd known Lauren her whole life now watching in stunned silence. Let me tell you what my daily life looked like. Silence settled over the cabin. I'd wake up in that cold basement room. No windows, just concrete walls and a twin bed. I wasn't allowed upstairs until Lauren said so. Sometimes that was noon, sometimes later. I pushed through the emotion rising in my chest. Meals were controlled. I'd get one plate, small portions, whatever was left over. I ate alone at a folding table in the corner of the basement. If I was still hungry, there was nothing I could do about it. I fixed my eyes on Lauren. One afternoon, I went upstairs. I was dizzy from hunger. I opened the fridge. Lauren came in and saw me. She took the food out of my hands and sent me back downstairs. Lay, murmurs rippled through the cabin. Someone muttered, "Jesus Christ." And money, I continued. Every month, my Social Security check came about $1,800. Lauren took it. Every penny. She said it was my contribution to the household. Bitterness crept into my words. But it wasn't enough, was it? You also drained my retirement account. You took the money from selling my house. You stole everything I had. Anger rose in my chest. And when I tried to push back, you'd attack me emotionally. You told me Rebecca didn't care about me, that I was just a burden to everyone. You isolated me. You made me believe I had nowhere else to go. Rebecca shot to her feet, fury blazing on her face. "Lauren, how could you—" "Not yet," I said firmly. She sat back down, wiping her eyes. Lauren even used my granddaughters against me. She'd threatened that I'd never see Emma and Lily again if I didn't cooperate. Emma stood near the hallway now, her face pale. And physically, I was falling apart. I lost weight. I aged years in months. Fear was written all over my face. I steadied myself against the table. Ryan knew. He saw what was happening. But Lauren would justify it. "She's expensive to care for. This is just paying us back." Ryan's face flushed red. He wouldn't meet anyone's eyes. Then by January 2025, something changed. I turned toward Emma. Emma was 13 at the time. She heard us arguing one night, a particularly vicious fight. Emma nodded slowly, her eyes glistening. I didn't know it then, but Emma snuck down to the basement stairs. She watched through the crack in the door. My words caught in my throat. Lauren had grabbed my hand. She was forcing me to sign something, another document giving her more access to my accounts. I was sobbing. I kept pleading, "I don't want to. Please." Not a sound came from anyone in the cabin. And Lauren hissed. I pinned her with my stare. "Sign it or I'll dump you in a state nursing home where you'll rot." Gasps erupted. Someone whispered, "Oh my God." I gestured toward Emma. Emma saw it all. And in that moment, my 13-year-old granddaughter understood something I'd been too broken to see clearly. Emma spoke from the hallway, her words quiet but firm. "It was abuse. What Mom was doing to Grandma, it was elder abuse." I nodded, tears finally spilling over. And my brave, brilliant granddaughter decided right then. I turned back to Lauren, that she had to do something. I had no idea that December night changed everything. I paused, looking around the room at 40 faces hanging on every word. Emma, my 13-year-old granddaughter, saw something that night she could never unsee. Lauren had cornered me in the basement, screaming, forcing me to sign papers I couldn't even read through my tears. And Emma was at the top of the stairs, watching through the crack in the door. I glanced at Emma, who was standing near Rebecca, now her eyes red but steady. Emma told me later what happened. She went to her room, closed the door, locked it, and lay in the dark staring at the ceiling, her heart pounding. Because the person she'd just watched screaming at her grandmother, threatening her, wielding fear like a weapon, that person was supposed to be her mother. The room was completely silent. Emma couldn't sleep that night, or the next. She kept replaying what she'd seen, the way Lauren had grabbed my wrist, the way her voice had gone cold when she said, "Sign it or I'll make sure you never see these girls again." The way I'd cried and begged and finally signed. My voice wavered, but I pushed through. Emma kept thinking about something from school. A few months earlier, her health teacher had done a unit on elder abuse, the warning signs, isolation, financial control, threats, withholding food. I took a breath. And Emma realized she'd been seeing those signs for over a year. She'd just been too scared to name them. I looked at Lauren, whose face had gone ashen. So Emma made a decision. She couldn't just stand by and watch me disappear. But she also knew that if she told someone without proof, no one would believe her. She was 13, a child, and Lauren was a successful real estate agent respected in the community. My voice hardened. Lauren would lie, twist the story, make it sound like I was confused, demented, and I'd disappear into that basement forever. Emma's voice came from across the room, small but clear. I promised myself that night, if I didn't have evidence, no one would believe a kid. Mom would lie, and Grandma would be gone. The weight of those words settled over the room. So Emma took the iPhone I'd given her for her 13th birthday, the one Lauren had always hated, said it was too expensive, too much for a child. I smiled bitterly. That phone became Emma's weapon. I could see some of the family members leaning forward now. Emma started researching. Late at night, after Lauren thought she was asleep, Emma would search on her phone. How to record abuse. Is audio recording legal in Ohio? She learned about Ohio's one-party consent law that as long as one person in the conversation knows they're being recorded, it's legal. That person could be her. I paused, and then Emma started practicing. She'd place her phone behind the toaster in the kitchen and talk from across the room. Could the microphone pick up voices? Yes. She'd hide it under the couch cushions, still clear. She'd tuck it into a coat pocket hanging in the hallway. Perfect. My voice grew softer. Emma tested battery life. She learned that voice memos could record for hours. She figured out how to turn off the screen so the phone looked dead. She practiced moving silently, placing the phone, walking away, like nothing had happened. I looked around at my family. This wasn't just a 13-year-old kid anymore. This was a detective, a witness, a protector. Emma lived in fear in her own home, jumping every time she heard Lauren's footsteps, listening for the moments when the cruelty came out. And then she'd slip her phone into position and press record. My voice broke, and I had no idea. I had no idea my granddaughter was fighting for my life while I was losing hope. Emma wiped her eyes, and Rebecca put an arm around her shoulders. By January 2025, Emma had her first recording. She listened to it that night, headphones on, door locked, and she cried. Because hearing her own mother's voice, cold, calculating, threatening, made it real. This wasn't a nightmare. This was her life. I straightened in my chair. But Emma didn't stop. She kept recording. Week after week, month after month, building a case, documenting every threat, every lie, every moment of cruelty, because she knew what I didn't, that the only way to save me was to expose the truth. I looked around the room. Emma became the witness I never knew I had, the hero I didn't know I needed. Emma's voice was barely a whisper. I just wanted to save my grandma. By April 2025, Emma had what she called her archive of truth. I looked around the room. 12 recordings, 65 minutes of cruelty captured in crystal clear audio. Lauren's face had gone white. Emma didn't tell me right away. She couldn't. She was terrified Lauren would find out, delete everything, and punish us both. So she did something smart. She uploaded every single recording to the cloud, 3 copies, Apple iCloud, Google Drive, and a USB drive she hid in her school locker. I saw Rebecca nod slightly. She'd helped Emma organize it all later. Lauren could never erase what Emma had captured. It was permanent, undeniable, and devastating. I took a breath. Recording number 3 was from February 14th, 2025, Valentine's Day, a day people share love. My voice turned bitter. But in our house, it was the day Lauren and Ryan discussed my hefty inheritance like I was already dead. I looked directly at Ryan, who couldn't meet my eyes. Lauren told Ryan Dad left her $130,000. She had $275,000 in retirement. That's our inheritance. And when Ryan said, "But she's still alive," Lauren laughed. She actually laughed and said, "By the time Rebecca figures it out, there'll be nothing left." Aunt Karen gasped. Recording number 6. My voice cracked. That one was from March 3rd. I was in the basement. I hadn't eaten all day. I could hear Lauren upstairs cooking dinner for her family, and I begged. I actually begged my own daughter for food. The room was so quiet I could hear people breathing. Emma's microphone picked up everything, my voice weak and crying, "Please, Lauren, I'm so hungry." And Lauren's response. I steadied myself. She laughed, not a nervous laugh, a mocking one. And then she said, "You already had oatmeal this morning. Don't be greedy. You just sit there all day. You don't need calories." Someone stood up and walked out. I think it was Cousin Michael. He couldn't listen anymore. But the most important recording, the one that proves this was all premeditated, was recording number 10, April 20th, 2025, 3 weeks before today. I looked at Lauren, whose hands were shaking. Lauren was in the kitchen with Ryan. Emma had hidden her phone on top of the refrigerator, and Lauren laid out her entire plan. I quoted from memory. I'd listened to it so many times with Rebecca. Mother's Day. That's when we do it. We invite everyone, all 40 of them. I'll stand up, present the bill, and make her look like the ungrateful burden she is. They'll see how much I sacrificed. And when she can't pay, when she's humiliated in front of the whole family, she'll have no choice. She'll sign over her Social Security, her pension, everything. And if she refuses, I'll threaten the nursing home, the state facility. She'll break. The silence was deafening. Emma heard every word, and she recorded it. Because she knew that this wasn't just abuse. This was a calculated plan to destroy me. I stood up slowly, looking at my family. 65 minutes, 12 recordings. Every threat, every lie, every moment of cruelty. My 13-year-old granddaughter documented it all because no adult was protecting me. I turned to Lauren. "You made one mistake. You underestimated your own daughter." Emma stepped forward, holding her phone. "I have every recording right here, Mom. And so does the cloud. And so does Aunt Rebecca. You can't erase the truth." While I sat in that basement feeling completely alone, my granddaughter was reaching out. I glanced around the cabin. I didn't know until later that Emma had contacted Rebecca from the school computer lab. Emma nodded, fresh tears streaming. April 8th, 2025, lunchtime at Emma's middle school. I set the scene for them. Lauren had blocked Rebecca's number on Emma's phone months earlier, but Emma remembered something, Rebecca's work email. She'd seen it years ago on an old family contact list. Emma spoke up softly. I waited until lunch, snuck into the computer lab. My hands were shaking so bad I could barely type. I continued for her. She wrote an email, subject line, "Aunt Rebecca, I need help with Grandma." My throat tightened. Emma told her everything. The abuse that had been going on for over a year, the recordings she'd collected, how scared she was. And then she wrote something that made Rebecca drop everything. I quoted from memory. "Mom is planning something for Mother's Day. I'm only 14 and I don't know what to do." Silence blanketed the room. Emma hit send and prayed Rebecca would check her email. I turned toward Rebecca, who was wiping her eyes. 6 o'clock that evening, Denver time. Rebecca came home from her shift at the hospital. She opened her laptop to check work emails. Rebecca's voice broke in. I saw Emma's name in my inbox. My heart stopped. I opened it and started reading. She covered her mouth. With every line, I felt sicker. By the end, I was shaking. I picked up the story. Rebecca immediately searched for flights to Columbus. Then she did something brilliant. She called Emma's school directly. Rebecca nodded. I told them it was a family emergency, that I needed to speak with Emma Harrison immediately. Emma added quietly. They pulled me out of last period, put me in the counselor's office, handed me the phone. The cabin was utterly still. Emma picked up the phone, and the first thing she did was cry. Emma's voice trembled as she spoke. I told Aunt Rebecca, Mom is hurting Grandma really bad. I have 12 recordings. Rebecca's voice cracked. I told her, 12, oh sweetheart, you've been so brave. I continued the narrative. Rebecca told Emma, I'm flying out tomorrow. Can you meet me somewhere secret, somewhere your mom won't know? Emma managed a small smile through her tears. I suggested the Starbucks on High Street, right after school. I felt my own tears building. Rebecca promised her. I'll be there. Don't tell your mother. I'm coming to get Grandma out. Emma's voice was barely a whisper. When I hung up, I felt hope for the first time in months. I kept thinking, Aunt Rebecca is coming. Grandma's going to be okay. I let that settle over the room, but I didn't know any of this was happening. That night, April 8th, 2025, I was still in that basement, still alone, still convinced no one was coming. My voice dropped. Lauren brought my dinner down at 8 o'clock, a piece of dry chicken and some carrots. She set it on the folding table without a word and left. I stared at the floor, remembering. I sat on my bed in that cold room, ate my tiny meal, and whispered to Joseph's photo like I did every night. I don't think I'm getting out of here. I lifted my head and met the eyes of my family. But 2 floors above me, Emma was lying in bed with her phone, counting down the hours until Rebecca arrived. I paused. And 800 miles away in Denver, Rebecca was packing a suitcase and booking a red-eye flight. My voice steadied. The rescue was already in motion. I just didn't know it yet. Rebecca told me later how they met that day. I didn't know it was happening, but she described every detail. I steadied myself. April 10th, 2025, 3:30 in the afternoon. Starbucks on High Street in Columbus. I glanced at Rebecca, then Emma. Rebecca had flown in that morning on a red-eye from Denver. She sat at a corner table exhausted but running on adrenaline, watching the door. Emma came in after school. The moment she spotted Rebecca, she ran, dropped her backpack and ran straight into her arms. Emma's voice was barely audible. I couldn't stop crying. I continued for them. Rebecca held her and whispered, It's okay, sweetheart. I'm here now. They sat down. Emma pulled out her iPhone with shaking hands. I have 12 recordings. I watched Rebecca wipe her eyes. Rebecca told her, Show me everything. Belt. I explained what happened next. For 90 minutes, Emma played those recordings, one after another. Rebecca sat there with earbuds in, listening to my daughter systematically destroy me. Rebecca's voice broke in. The first recording made me clench my jaw so hard I thought my teeth would crack. The second one, where she forced you to sign documents I wanted to get on the next plane and drag you out. Recording 3 about the inheritance, I couldn't breathe. I had to pause it. Emma added softly. Recording 6 was really hard. Aunt Rebecca started crying. Rebecca wiped her face. That was the one where Lauren was starving you. I heard your voice so weak, begging for food, and Lauren just laughed. I let the weight of that settle over the room. After Rebecca heard all 12 recordings, she told Emma something that changed everything. Emma, this is elder abuse, multiple felonies. These recordings are legal evidence in Ohio. You just saved your grandmother's life. I saw Emma's face crumple at the memory. Emma said, I was so scared no one would believe me, that people would think I was just a kid being dramatic. Rebecca shook her head. I told her, I believe you, every word. And when the police hear this, they'll believe you too, because you have proof. I picked up the story. Then Emma asked the question that was tearing her apart. Aunt Rebecca, why can't we get Grandma out now today? The room leaned in. Rebecca took a deep breath. I looked at Emma and told her the truth. Because if we take Grandma now, Lauren will panic. She'll hide the money, destroy evidence, maybe run, and we'll never get justice. Echo, Emma's voice was small. I said, but what if Mom hurts Grandma in the next month? Rebecca's eyes filled with tears. I promised her, if Lauren hurts her, we call the police immediately. But Emma, what we need is for Lauren to confess in front of witnesses. I watched Rebecca's face as she continued. On Mother's Day, Lauren is planning to present a fake bill for $500,000 in front of 40 family members. She wants to humiliate your grandmother. Let her do it. Let her perform. And then we play your recordings. We show 40 people who the real criminal is. We trap her with her own words. I felt a chill remembering her strategy. Rebecca looked Emma in the eye. This isn't just about saving your grandmother. This is about making sure Lauren never does this to anyone else. We need 40 witnesses. We need her to destroy herself. Emma's voice was barely a whisper. I asked, can you protect Grandma for one more month? Rebecca's response was immediate. I'll monitor from Denver. You'll text me every day. If anything changes, we move immediately. But 1 month from now, Lauren will be exposed, and your grandmother will be free. I watched my granddaughter. Emma was terrified, but she understood. She agreed to go home every day, watch Lauren hurt me, and stay silent, because she knew that on Mother's Day, justice would come. I turned to face the entire room. So while I sat in that basement thinking no one cared, Emma was counting down the days. While Lauren planned to humiliate me, Rebecca was planning something bigger. I met Lauren's eyes, and I had absolutely no idea. Late April 2025, Lauren announced the family gathering. I paused, remembering the dread. I was terrified the moment she said it, but I didn't know Rebecca was already here, already preparing. I explained what happened. It was dinner time. I wasn't allowed upstairs, but Emma told me later what Lauren said at the table. Emma's voice was soft. Mom announced, I'm planning something special for Mother's Day, a family gathering, everyone, at the Hocking Hills cabin. I continued. Emma pretended to be innocent. She asked, for Grandma? I watched Lauren's face as Emma repeated her mother's words. Lauren smiled that cold smile and said, oh, it's definitely about her. My jaw tightened. After dinner, Lauren came down to my basement room. I could still hear her voice. She told me, pack something nice. Family gathering on Mother's Day. I want everyone to see exactly what kind of burden you've become. I swallowed hard. Then she left, locked the door from outside. I remembered that moment. I sat on my bed thinking, what is she planning? What is she going to do to me? I glanced at Rebecca. What I didn't know was that Rebecca and Emma were meeting in secret. Rebecca had been staying at a hotel for weeks. Rebecca spoke up. Emma would sneak out, tell Lauren she had study group. Then she'd come to my hotel room. I described what they told me. Rebecca's room looked like a war room. Papers everywhere. The 12 recordings organized by date. A timeline on the wall. Emma added quietly, we planned every step. Aunt Rebecca would arrive after Mom presented the bill, after she humiliated Grandma. Rebecca's voice was firm. I told Emma, let Lauren dig her own grave first, then we drop the evidence. Now my chest tightened. The night before Mother's Day, I was alone in that basement packing clothes into a small bag. My voice caught. I found an old photograph. Lauren, at 8 years old, laughing, hugging me, back when she loved me. Tears burned my eyes. I whispered, when did I lose you, Lauren? I wiped my face. I talked to Joseph's picture. I said, I'm so scared of what tomorrow will bring. I straightened up. The next morning, May 11th, 2025, Lauren came downstairs. I mimicked her tone. She said, let's go. Your audience is waiting. I remembered the car ride. We drove to Hocking Hills. I sat in the back watching Columbus pass by. We drove through German Village, my old neighborhood, where Joseph and I were happy. My voice dropped. I wanted to jump out and run. I steadied myself. When we arrived, 40 family members were already there, people I hadn't seen in years. I felt the memory. Lauren put her hand on my back. It looked supportive, but her fingers dug in, controlling me. I repeated her whisper. She said, "Smile, Mom. You're about to become very famous." I turned to face everyone. I was led to the table, surrounded by family. Emma was across the room, her iPhone ready. I glanced toward the door. Rebecca was 15 miles away, parked at a gas station waiting for Emma's text. I looked around. We ate lunch. People laughed, talked. No one knew what was coming. My heart pounded. Then Lauren stood up. She tapped her glass with a fork. The room fell silent. She said, "Everyone, I have something important to share." I met her eyes, and I knew this was it. What Lauren didn't expect was that I'd come prepared with evidence of my own. I pulled the folder from my cardigan pocket. "Let me tell you what you owe me." Every eye in the cabin shifted from Lauren to me. "You claim I owe you $500,000. I opened the folder and laid out the first document. I kept records, every statement, every transaction, every piece of paper. Lauren's voice turned sharp. "Mom, you're confused." "I am not confused." My voice cut through the room. I was a medical records manager at Riverside Methodist for 35 years. I know how to read documents. I pulled out the first set of statements. My 401k retirement account. $275,000. 35 years of saving. I spread the bank statements across the table. January 2022, still intact. December 2025, empty. I looked up at the faces around me. Withdrawn by Lauren Harrison, using fraudulent power of attorney. Gasps rippled through the room. Lauren shot to her feet. "You signed that power of attorney. Under duress," I said firmly. "You threatened that I'd never see Emma and Lily again if I didn't sign." Emma nodded, tears streaming. I pulled out the next set of documents. My house, 1847 Schiller Street, German Village. Joseph and I paid off that mortgage over 30 years. I held up the real estate paperwork. Sold in 2022 for $485,000. I laid the transfer documents on the table. Every single penny went into Lauren's account. My cousin Karen stood up, her voice shaking with anger. "Lauren, is this true?" Lauren's face flushed red. I was protecting her money. "She's elderly, she doesn't understand." "I understand perfectly," I interrupted, "which is why I kept copies of everything." I pulled out the final set of papers. Joseph's life insurance, $130,000 when he passed in 2018. I looked directly at Lauren. "You got power of attorney in 2022. Within 1 month, that money disappeared." I held up a home improvement invoice. "You used it to remodel your kitchen." Ryan looked away, guilt written all over his face. The room erupted in angry voices. I raised my hand for silence. "You're charging me $500,000 for 3 years of care." My voice grew stronger with each word. "But you stole my life savings from me." I pointed to each stack of documents. $275,000 in retirement, $485,000 from my house, $130,000 in life insurance. I met Lauren's eyes. "I wasn't living off you. You were living off me." My Aunt Karen stood pointing at Lauren. "This is elder abuse, financial exploitation. Lauren, this is a crime." Lauren's voice turned desperate, shrill. "She's lying. She's old, she's confused. She has dementia, you can't trust anything she says." Then a voice came from the doorway. "Actually, you can trust every word she's saying, and I have proof." Every head turned. Rebecca stood in the entrance, a laptop under her arm and a Bluetooth speaker in her hand. The room exploded. "You stole from your own mother!" Aunt Karen shot to her feet, her chair scraping across the floor. Uncle Daniel's face had gone red. "This is criminal Lauren. Prison-level criminal." $890,000. Amanda's voice cracked. "That's not caregiving. That's theft." I watched Lauren's face cycle through shock anger, and then that familiar mask of control sliding back into place. "You don't understand." Her voice rose. Taking care of her was expensive. Do you know what it costs to house someone, feed them, handle their medications? I gave up 3 years of my life. You gave up nothing, Aunt Karen snapped. You took everything she had. Lauren pointed at the documents scattered across the table. Those are out of context. The market crashed. Her retirement. The market didn't take her house money. Uncle Daniel cut in. The market didn't cash out her husband's life insurance for your kitchen remodel. Then Ryan stood up. The movement was so sudden, so unexpected, that the room went quiet. He'd been silent this entire time, sitting beside Lauren like a statue. Now he was on his feet and his hands were shaking. Stop! His voice was barely a whisper. Just stop, Lauren. Lauren's head whipped toward him. Ryan, I knew. The words fell like stones. I knew what you were doing. I told you it was wrong. But you kept pushing. More money, more control. It's our inheritance, Ryan. She owes us Ryan. His voice broke. I should have stopped you. He turned to me, tears in his eyes. I'm sorry, Sharon. I knew and I did nothing. I was a coward. Lauren stood, her face twisted with rage. How dare you? Enough! Rebecca's voice cut through the noise like a blade. She stood at the head of the table laptop, open a small Bluetooth speaker in her hand. Her face was calm, but her eyes were ice. You want to hear Lauren explain herself, really hear her in her own words. She pressed a button. The speaker crackled to life. Recording 7, March 10th, 2025. Lauren's voice filled the cabin. Cold, calculated. Mother's Day, that's when we do it. I'll present the bill in front of everyone, humiliate her, make her admit she's been a burden. Then she'll sign everything over just to escape. The room went dead silent. Recording 9, April 2nd, 2025. If she refuses, I'll threaten the state nursing home, the one with all the violations. She's terrified of that place. She'll break. Aunt Karen covered her mouth, sobbing. Recording 11, April 15th, 2025. Lauren's voice again, this time laughing. By the time Rebecca figures it out, Mom will be in a facility and will have spent everything. What's she gonna do, sue her own sister? The silence was deafening. People were physically pulling back from Lauren now like she was something toxic. Rebecca looked at Lauren, her voice deadly calm. I have 12 recordings, 65 minutes of audio. Every threat, every lie, every crime you committed against your own mother. She paused. Elder abuse, financial exploitation of a vulnerable adult, coercion, identity theft, fraud. In Ohio, these are felonies. Combined, you're looking at 15 to 20 years in prison. Lauren's face had gone white. Rebecca's voice didn't waver. So here's what happens now. You have 30 days to return every cent, $890,000, all of it. Sell your house, liquidate your assets. I don't care how you do it. She leaned forward. Or I take these recordings to the Franklin County Prosecutor's Office and you go to prison. Your choice. The room held its breath. So what's it going to be, Lauren, restitution, or prison? Before we go on, let me know you're still here. Drop a 1 in the comments if you've made it this far, because what comes next is the most heartbreaking part. Quick reminder, this is a fictionalized story exploring real issues like elder abuse and family betrayal. If you're ready to see how Emma finally confronts her mother, stay with me. Lauren stared at Emma like she was looking at a stranger. You, her voice cracked. You did this to me. Emma stood frozen, her hands clutching her phone, tears streaming down her face. How could you? Lauren's voice rose raw with pain. I'm your mother. I gave you everything. I fed you, clothed. You gave you a home. I sacrificed for you every single day. The room was silent except for quiet sobbing. Lauren's voice grew desperate. Do you know how many times I stayed up late helping you with homework? How many basketball games I drove you to? How many birthday parties I planned? Her hands shook. I worked 60-hour weeks so you could have dance lessons and a nice house in a good school district. She took a step closer. And this is how you repay me, by recording me like I'm some kind of criminal, by destroying me in front of everyone." Emma's lips trembled, but she didn't speak. "Do you have any idea what you've done? You've ruined me. You've taken everything from me. My home, my reputation, my freedom." Her voice dropped to a whisper. "And for what? For her?" She pointed at me, her hand shaking. "She's old Emma. She had maybe 5 years left. She was going to die anyway. But me, I'm your mother. I'm supposed to be the person you protect, the person you trust." Emma flinched like she'd been slapped. "Say something," Lauren screamed. "Tell me why. Tell me how you could do this to your own mother." The room held its breath. And then finally, Emma spoke. "You're right." Her voice was so quiet, everyone leaned in to hear. "You are my mother, and I did love you." She wiped her face with her sleeve. "I loved the mom who used to read to me at night, the mom who made pancakes on Sunday mornings, the mom who taught me how to ride a bike, the mom who told me to always stand up for what's right even when it's hard." Her voice broke. "I loved that mom so much." Lauren's face softened for just a moment, but Emma wasn't finished. "But that mom died. Maybe she died when Grandpa died. Maybe before that. I don't know. But somewhere along the way, the person I loved disappeared." Tears poured down her face. "And the person who took her place. The person who screamed at Grandma in the basement, who starved her and laughed about it, who stole from her and called her a burden." Emma's voice cracked. "That wasn't my mom. That was a stranger." Lauren opened her mouth, but Emma kept going. "Do you know what it's like to watch someone you love turn into someone you don't recognize? To lie awake at night wondering if you're going crazy." Her hands shook. "I kept making excuses for you. I told myself you were just stressed, that taking care of Grandma was overwhelming. I wanted to believe you were still the mom I loved." She took a breath. "I didn't want to record you. I wanted to be wrong. I wanted someone to tell me I was imagining things." Emma's voice dropped to a whisper. "But then I heard you, planning Mother's Day like it was a game, laughing about putting Grandma in a state facility, talking about her money like it was yours." She wiped her face. "And I realized I had to choose. I could stay silent and let you destroy Grandma, or I could save her." Lauren's face twisted. "So you chose her over me?" "No." Emma's voice cut through the room. "I chose what was right over what was easy." She looked at Lauren with tears streaming. "You asked me why I did this. Here's why: because I loved Grandma more than I was afraid of you. Because Grandpa asked you to take care of her and you broke that promise. I was there. I heard you promise him." Her voice broke. "Someone had to stop you, and it had to be me." She paused. "I didn't betray you, Mom. You betrayed yourself. You betrayed Grandpa. You betrayed Grandma. And you betrayed the person you taught me to be." She looked at Lauren one last time. "I killed the image of the mother I loved to save the grandmother who's still here, and I'd do it again." Lauren collapsed into her chair, her face in her hands, shoulders shaking. Not because she'd lost her money, not because she was facing prison, but because her own daughter, her own child, had been the one to bring her down, and Emma had done it out of love. The morning after Mother's Day, I woke up in Rebecca's hotel room in Columbus. I paused, remembering that moment. For the first time in 3 years, I'd slept through the entire night. No footsteps above my head, no locked door, no fear, just silence. And Emma curled up in the other bed, still asleep. I smiled softly. Rebecca was already awake, sitting at the little desk with her laptop open, making calls. When I sat up, she looked at me and said, "Morning, Mom, how do you feel?" And I didn't know how to answer. Free, exhausted, terrified, all of it. I took a breath. We went downstairs for breakfast. Emma ordered blueberry pancakes, the kind I used to make for her when she was little. She took one bite and started crying. She said, "These taste like Grandma's." And I realized she'd been missing me too, missing the person I used to be before Lauren took me away. The room was quiet listening. On May 13th, 2 days after Mother's Day, Rebecca drove me to a meeting with Adult Protective Services, a PS Franklin County office in downtown Columbus. I straightened in my chair. There was a woman named Patricia Coleman. She was kind but professional. And there was a Detective James Collins from the Franklin County Sheriff's Office. They sat me down in a small room with a recording device and asked me to tell them everything. I looked around at my family. So I did. For 3 hours, I told them what Lauren had done, how she'd isolated me, controlled my money, withheld food, threatened me with nursing homes, forced me to sign documents I couldn't read. My voice wavered. And then Rebecca played the recordings, all 12 of them, 65 minutes. Patricia Coleman took notes the entire time. Detective Collins didn't move. He just listened, his jaw getting tighter and tighter with every recording. I paused. When it was over, Patricia looked at me and said, "Mrs. Harrison, what happened to you is textbook elder abuse. Financial exploitation, emotional abuse, coercion. These are serious crimes." She told me they were opening a full investigation, that they'd be contacting Lauren within 48 hours. I felt the weight of those words again. Detective Collins asked me if I wanted to press charges, criminal charges. He said, "Ma'am, we have enough evidence here to build a strong case. But I need to know, are you willing to go forward with this?" I looked at Lauren, who sat frozen in her chair, and I said yes, not because I wanted revenge, but because if I didn't stop her, she'd do this to someone else. Maybe not her mother, but someone. And I couldn't let that happen. Rebecca squeezed my hand. On May 14th, we met with a lawyer, Ellen Martinez, elder law attorney. Rebecca had hired her the day before. Ellen reviewed everything: the bank statements, the real estate documents, the power of attorney forms, the recordings. She spread them all out on her conference table and said, "This is one of the worst cases I've seen." I remembered Ellen's face. Sharp. Focused. Ellen did an asset assessment. She pulled records on Lauren's house, her cars, her investments. The house in Dublin had a net equity of about $340,000 after the mortgage. Lauren's vehicles and investment accounts were worth another $110,000. Total recoverable assets, $450,000. I let that number sink in. Not the full $890,000 that Lauren stole from me, but still substantial. Ellen said, "We'll file a civil suit to recover the full amount. We'll force liquidation of her assets. And we'll put a lien on any future income until every penny is repaid." My throat tightened. I asked Ellen, will I be able to live independently again? Because that's all I wanted. Not revenge. Not even justice, really. I just wanted my life back, my dignity, my freedom. I wiped my eyes. Ellen smiled and said, "Sharon, with $450,000, you can absolutely live independently. We'll help you find a safe place, near Rebecca if you want, or on your own. Whatever you choose. You'll never have to depend on Lauren again." I took a breath. On May 15th, I got a call from Aunt Karen. She told me what was happening to Lauren. Ryan had moved out the morning of May 12th, the day after Mother's Day. He'd packed a bag and left without saying a word. The house was already in foreclosure, 3 missed mortgage payments. Lauren's real estate license was under review by the state board. Most of the family had blocked her number. I paused, and Emma and Lily Ryan's sister, Susan, had taken them in temporarily. Emma was safe. She was with family who loved her. My voice dropped. Karen said Lauren had called her crying, begging for help, begging someone, anyone, to believe her side of the story. But no one would listen. Because they'd all been there, they'd all heard the recordings, they'd all seen the evidence. I looked around the room. I felt so many things in that moment. Relief, sadness, guilt. Part of me still remembered the little girl I'd raised, the daughter I'd loved, and I grieved for her, for who she used to be, for who she could have been. I straightened. But I also knew I'd made the right choice, because evil doesn't stop itself. Someone has to stand up. Someone has to say no more. Rebecca spoke up. On May 16th, Detective Collins called. He said, "Mrs. Harrison, we have enough evidence to file criminal charges. The prosecutor's office is reviewing the case. Are you still willing to proceed?" I nodded, and I said yes, because this wasn't just about me anymore. It was about every elderly person sitting in a basement somewhere being abused by someone they trust. It was about making sure Lauren faced consequences, real consequences. I smiled softly. Rebecca asked me to come live with her in Denver. At first I said no, I didn't want to be a burden again. But she looked me in the eye and said, "Mom, you're not a burden. You never were. Lauren made you believe that. But it was a lie, and I want you with us. Emma wants you with us. We have a room ready. A bedroom with big windows facing east so you can wake up to the sunrise. We found a pottery class nearby Tuesdays and Thursdays, just like you used to love." My voice cracked. And Emma said, "Please, Grandma, I miss you. I want you to be there when I start high school. I want you to teach me how to make your blueberry pancakes." I wiped my tears. So I said yes. But only temporarily. Only until I could find my own place nearby. Because I needed to prove to myself and to the world that I could stand on my own 2 feet again. I looked around the cabin. That night, I sat in the hotel room and looked at a photo of Joseph. I whispered, "I did it, Joseph. I survived. I made it out." And I swear I felt him smiling. My voice grew stronger. Because I wasn't just surviving anymore. I was starting to live again. May 18th, 2025. 1 week after the confrontation. Before moving to Denver, I needed closure. Rebecca drove me to the places that mattered. First stop was German Village. Rebecca pulled up in front of 1847 Schiller Street, my old house. A young family lived there now. 2 little kids were playing in the front yard. I stood on the sidewalk staring. "Your father and I planted that oak tree when Rebecca was born." My voice caught. "We painted the porch every 5 years. Blue, always blue." I watched the children laugh and chase each other across the lawn. Lauren took her first steps on that walkway. Rebecca touched my shoulder. "Do you regret selling it?" "I regret trusting the wrong daughter to handle the sale." I paused, watching the oak tree sway in the breeze. "But it's just walls and wood. The memories are mine. She can't take those." Our next stop was Green Lawn Cemetery. We walked together to Joseph's grave, Rebecca on one side, Emma on the other. The headstone read, "Joseph William Harrison, 1962 to 2018, beloved husband and father." I knelt down and placed flowers at the base. "Joseph's sweetheart, I survived. Barely. But I made it." My voice broke. "Rebecca came for me, just like you always did." I wiped my eyes. "And Emma?" "Oh, Joseph, Emma was so brave. Our granddaughter saved me when I couldn't save myself." Tears streamed down my face. "I'm sorry I let Lauren become what she became. Maybe some people are just broken." Emma knelt beside me and wrapped her arms around my shoulders. "That's not your fault, Grandma. Mom made her own choices, not you." We stayed there for a long time, the 3 of us, together. After the cemetery, we drove to Clintonville to see Pauline, my best friend since 1985. The woman Lauren had turned away at the door over and over. When Pauline opened her apartment door and saw me, she burst into tears. "I tried to visit you so many times. She turned me away every single time." Pauline pulled me into a tight hug. "I even called Adult Protective Services last year, but I had no proof. I should have done more." I held her tight. "You tried. That's more than most people did." We sat in her living room and talked for an hour. I told her everything. "I'm moving to Denver, but I'll call every week." Pauline squeezed my hand. "You better. You're not getting rid of me that easily." We hugged at the door for a long time, both of us, knowing it might be months before we saw each other again. As we walked back to the car, I saw a familiar vehicle pull into the parking lot. Lauren's car. I tensed. Rebecca immediately stepped between us, protective. Lauren got out. She looked terrible. Her hair was unwashed. Her clothes hung loose. She'd lost weight. "Mom, please, can we talk just 2 minutes?" I kept my voice steady. "What do you want, Lauren?" Lauren's face crumpled. "I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. I don't know what happened to me. The pressure, the money." Her voice turned desperate. "Please don't press charges. I'll lose everything." I looked at her for a long moment. "You already lost everything that mattered." My voice was calm but firm. "You lost your mother, your sister, your daughter's trust, the memory of your father." I took a breath. "The charges aren't about punishment, Lauren. They're about prevention, so you can't do this to anyone else." Lauren's voice broke. "I'm your daughter. You have to forgive me." I was quiet for a moment, then I spoke. "I do forgive you, for my own peace." I met her eyes. "So I don't have to carry your poison anymore." I paused. "But forgiveness doesn't erase consequences. You hurt me in ways I'm still discovering." I turned toward the car. "Goodbye, Lauren." I walked away. I didn't look back. In the car, Rebecca drove. I sat in the passenger seat. Emma was in the back. I watched Columbus fade in the rearview mirror. "How do you feel, Mom?" I thought about it. Sad, relieved, free. My voice softened. I loved her so much. Part of me still does, but I can't save her. I can only save myself. Emma leaned forward from the back seat. "You don't have to save anyone anymore, Grandma. Now we're the ones who save you." I smiled through tears. Yes, you are." Rebecca glanced over at me. "Ready to see your new home?" "Tell me about that bedroom with the big windows." Emma's voice lit up with excitement. "It faces east. You'll get sunrise every morning, and we found a pottery class at the rec center. Tuesdays and Thursdays." I smiled genuinely. Pottery. I used to love pottery. I'd forgotten I ever loved anything. Ahead of us, a highway sign appeared. Denver, 1,043 miles. Our car turned west into the sunset. 2 months later, July 2025, my 61st birthday in Denver. My new life had settled into something I barely recognized normalcy. I woke up with the sunrise streaming through the big windows of my bedroom. The room was decorated with my things now. Photos of Joseph on the dresser, pottery pieces I'd made sitting on the shelf. The smell of coffee drifted in from the kitchen. Emma was making breakfast. Summer break. Rebecca poked her head through the doorway. "Morning, Mom. Did you sleep well?" I did. I do every night now. We ate breakfast together. Laughter, comfort, warmth. On Tuesday afternoons, I went to pottery class at the rec center, my hands in the clay shaping a bowl. The instructor leaned over my shoulder. "Beautiful, Sharon, you have a natural gift." I smiled. I used to do this 40 years ago, before everything. I made pieces to give Emma and Rebecca as gifts. Small things, bowls, mugs, things that said, "I love you," without words. On Wednesday afternoons, Emma and I walked in the park near the apartment. She told me about starting high school in the fall. She was nervous. "You're the bravest person I've ever known, Emma. High school will be easy for you." Emma looked at me. "I was only brave because you needed me to be." "That's what love is, sweetheart." Dinners were my favorite. Rebecca cooked. I helped. Emma set the table. One evening, Lily video called from Ohio. She was staying with Ryan's sister, Susan. Temporary custody while the courts sorted everything out. Lily's face filled the screen. "Hi, Grandma. I miss you." My heart swelled. "I miss you too, baby. Are you okay?" "Aunt Susan is really nice, but I wish you were here." My chest tightened. "I'll visit soon, I promise." After the call ended, Rebecca touched my arm. "We're working on custody transfer. Lily will come here." Later that evening, Emma and I sat on the apartment balcony. The Denver skyline glowed in the sunset. "Do you still think about her, about Mom?" I knew she meant Lauren. "Every day, but it hurts less now. Do you?" Emma nodded. "I miss the person I thought she was. not the person she actually is. I understand. I miss the daughter I thought I had, too. We sat in comfortable silence. Are you happy, Grandma? I thought about it. I'm getting there, and that's enough for now. My birthday party was small. Rebecca, Emma, a few friends from pottery class, cake, candles, singing. Emma handed me a gift, a framed photograph of the three of us taken the day we left Columbus. Emma had written on the frame, May 11th, 2025, the day we saved each other. I cried happy tears. We did it, didn't we? You saved me, and I gave you back your voice. Emma hugged me tight. You gave me courage, Grandma, to do the right thing even when it's hard. The phone rang. Rebecca answered. Her attorney, Ellen Martinez. Rebecca listened, her eyes widening. She hung up and turned to me. Mom Ellen has news about the civil suit. Good news or bad, Rebecca smiled. Very good. Lauren accepted a plea deal. Ellen Martinez's voice came through the phone speaker. Lauren Harrison has pleaded guilty to financial exploitation of an elderly person. Rebecca squeezed my hand. Emma sat beside me, listening intently. The sentence, 18 months in prison under a plea agreement, 3 years probation after that. I sat down, processing the information. Relief mixed with sadness washed over me. The court ordered full restitution, $890,000. Ellen continued without pause. Her house has sold. After paying off the mortgage that recovered $340,000, she paused to let me absorb it. Investments in vehicles, another $110,000. I did the math in my head. $450,000, half of what she stole. Total received so far $450,000. Ellen's voice was firm. The remaining $440,000 is on a 10-year court-ordered payment plan, monthly installments. If she misses payments, she violates probation and goes back to prison. I found my voice. Will I actually get that money? It's a court order, Sharon. She has no choice. The state will enforce it. That evening, Rebecca, Emma, and I sat together at the kitchen table discussing what to do with the $450,000. I'd already made my decision. $100,000 for Emma's college fund. Emma's eyes filled with tears. Grandma, you don't have to. I held up my hand. I want to. You saved my life, Emma. This is my investment in your future, in your dreams. I looked at her directly. Unlike my daughter, I know you'll use it to build something good. I also decided to donate $25,000 to the National Center on Elder Abuse, so other grandmothers might be saved. I used $150,000 as a down payment on a small apartment near Rebecca, my independence, my space. The remaining $175,000 became my comfortable cushion, security I'd never have to worry about again. September 2025. I moved into my own place, a small one-bedroom apartment in a quiet building, 10 minutes from Rebecca, 20 from Emma's high school. I furnished it myself. Every choice was mine. My couch, my dishes, my curtains, my colors. The first night alone in a place that was truly mine. I walked from room to room, touching the walls. This is mine. No one can take it away. I sat by the window looking out at the Denver city lights twinkling in the darkness. I whispered to Joseph's photo on the side table. I did it, sweetheart. I'm 61 years old and starting completely over. I smiled through tears, and I'm not afraid anymore. I started writing letters to other victims of elder abuse, sharing my story, offering hope to those still trapped. To anyone living in a situation like I did, you are not alone. You are not crazy. You are not the burden they say you are. I wrote with steady hands. Document everything. Tell someone who will listen. Ask for help. Call Adult Protective Services. Call the police. I paused, remembering my basement prison. The fear, the isolation. It's terrifying, I know. I lived in fear for 3 years. But silence only protects your abuser. Your voice is your power. I finished the letter with conviction. You deserve dignity. You deserve safety. You deserve peace. and you deserve to tell your story. October 2025. A park in Denver. Autumn, leaves falling like golden rain. Me, Rebecca, Emma, and Lily. Custody had finally transferred. Lily lived with Rebecca now, safe, loved. We were playing on the swings, laughing, being a family. Emma took a photo of all four of us together. I looked at my granddaughters and my daughter, my protectors, my family. They tried to make me pay for my own existence, I said quietly. They sent me a bill for $500,000 for the crime of being alive and needing help. I smiled, feeling the weight lift. But I don't owe them anything anymore. The four of us stood together, arms around each other, sunset painting the sky behind us in shades of orange and gold. I spoke my final words. My bill is paid in full, not with money. With freedom, with love, with courage. I took a deep breath of clean autumn air. I'm Sharon Harrison. I'm 61 years old, and I'm finally home. If you're watching this and you see yourself in my story, whether you're the one suffering or the one witnessing, please don't be like I was. Don't wait until you've lost everything to speak up. Don't let shame silence you. Don't convince yourself that family loyalty means accepting abuse. I looked directly into the camera. Family drama stories like mine happen more often than you think. Grandma stories about financial exploitation, isolation, and control, they're real. They're happening right now in homes across this country. And the victims stay silent because they're scared, because they think no one will believe them, because they think they're a burden. My voice grew stronger. But here's what I learned. God doesn't want you to suffer in silence. He sees you. He hears you. And He will provide a way out sometimes through the courage of a 13-year-old girl with a smartphone and a brave heart. I paused. Family drama stories teach us that love without boundaries becomes imprisonment. Grandma stories like mine aren't just cautionary tales, they're calls to action. If you see something, say something. Document everything. Reach out to Adult Protective Services. Call the police. Tell someone who will listen. I took a deep breath. And to anyone who feels trapped right now, God has not forgotten you. He is working behind the scenes even when you can't see it. Trust Him, and trust that your voice matters. These family drama stories and grandma stories aren't entertainment, they're warnings. They're lifelines for someone who needs them. I smiled softly. My story had a happy ending because Emma refused to stay silent, because Rebecca refused to let evil win. Don't wait for a miracle. Be the miracle for someone else. Thank you for being here until the very end. If you made it this far, type 2 below so I know you're still with me. Just a note, this story contains creative elements meant to raise awareness and spark reflection. If it's not your cup of tea, that's completely okay. Explore content that speaks to you. But if this touched your heart, please hit subscribe and share it. You might just change someone's life today.